You want to introduce us? Or you want to introduce
I feel
us?
like you should
Okay,
as the
all right.
interviewer.
Hi, I am Eileen Chevalier from Night King Press, and today I'm going to be interviewing Wonderland, aka Mariella May. She is the author of Hearts and Stones. So this is part 1. Part 2 is coming out on June 20th, 2026. And the full book is coming out
November.
November 26th, 2026. So we'll have ARC copies of that. At the same time, we have ARC copies of part 2 because
It's all one book.
it's just one book. Yes. So fantastic. I'll keep this handy in case I need it. So there's a series of interviews. This one's about characters. And just to delve in a little bit, find out who they are, how you made them, maybe some hints at where they're going. And then there's also one on the Wonderland itself and just an author interview as well. So let's start off with inspiration. Where did you get your inspiration, and then how did that develop over time?
Well, okay, so originally I have a couple inspirations, obviously. My sister is also an author, and just seeing her do that and all the things she had to go through for that, and having seen a physical finished result of it, like holding a book that my family made, was such a cool experience.
Right.
And it was after that I started working on this, and it was because I read a book that I did not love. And I had just stopped going to public middle school.
Oh, it was right when you stopped.
I mean, it was a little after, but it was still in the year that I stopped going to public middle school.
Okay.
I never finished that public
Did
middle
you
school
start it in this house?
year. I started in this house.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was such a weird experience. While I was listening to that book on audio, I did a drawing of a character, and it was my idea of a character in Wonderland.
Which character?
And it was Lamb.
Oh,
The only things
wow.
I knew about Lamb are all slight spoilers.
Oh, okay.
But I drew her, and I was like, this, that, and like it was 3 facts about her. One of them
Okay.
was that she was the Princess of Hearts, but not the evil queen. Like, she was way after the evil queen. That was my first
You knew
thought.
that already.
Yeah, and then 2 others that
Nice.
are both spoilers.
Okay, well.
And her character design has stayed relatively similar. She had the markings from my first
Oh,
drawing.
really?
She had the red hair. The outfits have changed throughout writing it, and the crowns and whatnot have all changed, but the initial design.
Right. Your inspiration, when you started thinking about, you knew you wanted to write a book because you had seen that seemed really amazing.
Yeah.
And then is this just the first thing that came to you after that, or had you worked on other projects or had other story ideas before that?
I definitely had other story ideas before that, but this was the first project I went into with the idea of it being a novel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you knew that Lamb
I knew it was going to be
was
Follow
there,
Lamb.
so she was first.
I didn't know her name at the time.
Oh.
Her name was not one of the things I came up with.
So you started with Lamb, and then who did you add, and why? How did they come up into her world?
Relating to one of the things that I initially thought of the second character I came up with technically was Rudyard.
Ah, Rudyard's her brother.
Rudyard is Lamb's brother. And the third character I came up with was Hatter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Hatter being obviously the Mad Hatter.
The Mad Hatter, but not, obviously, again, not the one from the original Lewis Carroll, but a descendant of that Mad Hatter.
Okay, so we'll talk more about this in the setting Wonderland one, but how do your characters relate to Lewis Carroll's characters? Like, or do you try to align them closely? Or do you try to be different? Are you taking inspiration? How does that work for you?
The interesting thing is I'm trying to align them with a lot of different stories while also keeping them unique. I never wanted to write a retelling of a story in the
Right, of the same story.
Yeah, like I appreciate when people do retellings in a totally different setting, like taking a historical fairy tale and making it sci-fi. Like that is interesting. But
West Side Story.
yeah, it was only until much later into working on the book that I thought of the prequels that will technically be retellings of fairy tales.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in my initial writing, I really wanted it to be unique, and I wanted all of the components to work together through a web that I completely made.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't exactly be taking from other stories to mix them together.
Right.
Like, it wasn't like scrapbook ransom notes kind of just melding everything together. I really wanted to create my own world around the already existing worlds.
Yeah. I feel it's been a little while since I've read Alice in Wonderland. I don't know if I've ever read Alice in Wonderland. I think I did listen to it when you were writing this book.
Yeah.
But I feel
I had to. It was my,
of course.
like, one
Absolutely.
of my first
And I
times.
just listened to Through the Looking Glass. And it's so vague.
It's so vague.
The world.
It's actually very
and
nice.
the characters are not fleshed out. You get these little pictures and
It's very vignette-y.
you get a few, she sees this character for 2 minutes and then she's
And
gone.
then that character's crying, and then we go over to this character.
So I feel like you've done an amazing job of just taking those characters and fully developing them. You know all their backstories and they interact with each other. Obviously, your novel is much more
A novel.
rather than
kid's story.
Yes. So let's talk about Hatter for a moment because Hatter is really fascinating. I love Hatter, obviously.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that inspiration and how your Hatter is different or draws from the original Hatter?
So it's interesting. Actually, as I was writing it, I realized that my Hatter is not as mad. His son, Mac, is much more spacey, but neither of them are exceedingly strange, which I thought was interesting.
Maybe
as
they
I was
use
writing
better
it.
chemicals in their Hattery.
Yeah, it was really interesting as I was developing it, because I was also thinking about why are people mad in Wonderland? Why aren't people as mad? And I think it's really about the situation they existed in. So how I have the story, the Mad Hatter from the original Lewis Carroll in my world was in a much more extreme, just general political environment than the current environment. Okay. So there's just a lot of external forces
Factors, yeah.
making people mad. And I really wanted to showcase a integral character to Hearts that isn't a royal.
Okay.
Because I really wanted to show how, it takes 1 million people to run a castle, and everyone's based off of every crown is worth whatever people make it worth. So
right.
I think Hatter is a really interesting character for me to explore with someone who voluntarily stays in a position below the technical, most powerful.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like the role of the Hatter is getting passed down as well.
Yeah, it's also...
So how is that tied to the original Hatter? Not at all? Or is that something that happened after Alice in Wonderland?
I would assume that it actually happened before Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
How I have it with the characters that also know the original Hatter, they all maintained their positions near the royals, and I think that the Mad Hatter was the one to first become the most mad and the least almost able to hold a higher position.
So can you talk about what their job is, what their role is? And
in my story, the Mad Hatters, or the Hatters line, is all of them eventually become advisors to the king or queen of Hearts. So Mac is currently technically the junior advisor to the prince and princess of Hearts, and Hatter, his father, is the advisor to the king and queen. And and I have a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, okay. So I don't want to spoil things.
Oh, also, technically, chaperone? Is that what you care?
Well, I was thinking more it's having to do with the Hatter.
Oh, yes, also the dressmaker. Sorry. They're also the
I didn't know if you wanted to give it away.
No, they're
it's
also
actually really fantastic. Like,
yeah, not only are they the advisors, they are also the professional tailors for the royal family.
right.
Which,
And so,
yeah, actually, Mac is studying not just clothing, but also armor designs. So
yeah, so it's really fascinating because not only are they advising them, but they're also kind
actually
of
clothing
that physical advice. Like you carry it with you in there, which I think is just a really interesting way to bring them into all of the settings, because it's always what they've designed and how they want to portray the royal family.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. It's kind of similar to the stylists in the Hunger Games, if you think about it. Like, not only
so was
are
that
they
one
trying,
of your inspirations?
that was
for
definitely
them?
one of my
Yes,
inspirations. Like, I thought it's such a fascinating idea of you have to portray, especially as a royal, especially as someone in such a visual position.
Right.
You have to visually be consistent and stunning. There's just a lot of levels to it.
Well, and not only does Hatter make clothing for the Kingdom of Hearts, they also make clothing for other kingdoms, correct?
No. Yes and no. Each kingdom has their own personal tailor.
Okay.
Another tailor that you will meet in part 2 has previously made a dress for Lamb, but that was as a gift. That was as a diplomatic gift.
Okay. I was just remembering someone else also wearing something from a Hatter.
That was in a previous draft. Well, also,
was it?
There are Hatters that aren't the
the same line.
Yeah, it's like how you get dukes and duchesses from cousins and siblings that don't inherit. You also get Hatters that are not the direct royal.
Crazy Hatters.
The direct royal advisory type Hatters.
Okay.
I believe that was in an old draft. If it is still in the new draft, it would be from a different Hatter. Okay.
Let's see. What other characters do we love?
I mean, we haven't touched upon the main.
Yes, I know.
There's kind of a gaping hole that we haven't touched on.
Yes. Do you want to talk about any of those? Yeah, go for it.
I feel like we should first address the first one we really
The elephant. I mean,
the cat in the room.
The cat in the room.
So Cheshire was a very easy design for me. I had no thoughts when I was making him. It was just everything I felt, and it was on the page instantly.
Nice.
So the short stature, the loving sweets, the wildness, like all of it, I didn't really plan. It just happened how I wrote it, and it just came onto the page so easily.
Yes, so much, very, very unlike Lewis Carroll's Cheshire.
Yeah, very interesting how it's different. So in Lewis Carroll's, obviously, Cheshire is actually a cat. In this one, he is not a cat. He has very few attributes. He only has a tail. That's basically his only cat-ish attribute.
Well,
and the slitted eyes.
And he can disappear.
And he can disappear. And he can float. And he can... It's actually interesting because I considered for a long time him being like almost like a werecat, so he could turn into a cat.
Oh.
I never eventually, it just never fit with my story.
Like a catter, what are those things called? And
oh yeah,
it's the,
what is that book called?
The Biltmore ones.
The Biltmore stories.
Anyway, yes, it's an interesting idea that he could be both, and I kind of thought that's what you were going to do.
It was what I was going to do for a long time.
But I also like that it's not exactly like that. I wonder...
I think for me, how I did things is often I made them less of a folktale. Like, how I thought of it was Lewis Carroll's was how Alice saw Wonderland.
Yes,
and how Alice remembered Wonderland. So Alice remembered Wonderland much more dramatically.
She was dramatic.
Than it was factually. So she saw someone with a cat-like attribute, and she was like, a cat, a disappearing, smiling cat, because that's all she could remember. And how I have it is all the fairy tales and folk tales we have from Wonderland are just that. It's just stories people who went to Wonderland remembered. So even the nursery rhyme of the Queen of Hearts made some tarts one bright summer day, I think it's bright, is the first tale told in our world from Wonderland.
But it's just our perception of that place and not necessarily what that place is. Oh, very interesting. Nice. Well, there's another character that I truly love that we haven't talked about.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to just save him or briefly touch on...
Oh! We'll just refer to him as Hare, or the March Hare, or March Hare, as his name is actually. Although he sometimes forgets that. So Hare was a fascinating character to design because he was not at all. He was like the exact opposite of Cheshire. Whereas Cheshire just came onto the page perfectly, Hare did not. Hare tumbled onto the page, changing every single time. Really, actually, there's a line in the first chapter where someone mentions something about him, and that line had to get changed so many times because
he kept changing.
He kept changing.
Oh,
it was one simple thing to describe him, and I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. So it was really after I just stopped like trying to figure him out that he really became a fleshed out character.
Okay. So
he's very similar for me to Rip Red from the original Suzanne Collins series. Suzanne Collins' first series, Gregor the Overlander, because he has that
swagger.
He has that swagger. He has that he's better at fighting than everyone else. He has that he can take you in a second. And he also has that age and fearlessness and almost sad knowledge. Like the weight of knowledge, I think, is very prevalent in both of those characters. And I really appreciate that. I feel like the mentor character is usually split into like the kind, old, calm master or the just very not exactly brazen, but the very forward and brutal teacher that's just like, no, you're doing it wrong. And I think that's what Hare falls into.
Yeah, Hare's really interesting, especially as it progresses.
Yeah. And as you learn more about his backstory, I think he's fascinating.
And his role
within
the world.
Which is very complicated.
Yes. Not anyway. I don't know what
not to be spoiled.
Hare's fantastic.
And it's actually interesting because his backstory, because it's so vast, kept growing as I wrote it.
Right.
More things became actualized in the story.
Right. And then that would change who he was as a character because he experiences so much more than everyone else in the story.
Well, no. Technically, another character experiences just about as much.
Overall? Total?
Overall.
Oh.
It's someone who's just as old as him.
What?
Do you remember my book?
Okay. Any other characters that you want to talk about?
So I don't really have an exact main antagonist. Well, okay, I do. I have an exact main antagonist. So I arguably have two main antagonists.
Yes.
One more
visible.
Well, okay, it's interesting because they're visible in two different ways. One is more presently antagonistic, and one is more historically antagonistic.
Okay.
So the one that I would say is more presently antagonistic is Tragedy, which I will not explain why he is Tragedy, but simply he is known as Tragedy. His character is fascinating for me because he was the first antagonist I came up with for the story. And what he is a storyteller, which means he physically controls fate. And again, I will not go into too much detail about that, but he's not the only one who's controlling fate, and people can arguably change fate. So, but I think one of the most important facts about him is that he's masked, because the point of Tragedy is to be what you remember him to be. It's almost like Alice with Wonderland. He's the Wonderland of this story because he is how you perceived him.
Okay.
In a lot of ways. And that's why he often doesn't want to be remembered, almost.
Well, and I think he wants things to be remembered differently. Doesn't he rewrite his own story?
He did. He rewrote his own story so it would be remembered completely differently. And he wishes his main way he works is through dreams, because dreams can be whatever he wants them to be. And you can remember a dream however you want it. Mm-hmm. Because it was never real, and it was never set in stone, and it was never inchangeable, unlike how he feels.
And your guard is down.
And your guard is down, and you're asleep. There's just so much. And also, dreams could be anything. Mm-hmm. In a dream, you could do anything. So I think it's fascinating, the idea of tragedy constantly appearing in a space where anything is possible.
Yes. So can you tell us a little bit about the Storytellers, how you came up with them as a group, and where you drew those characters from?
So initially, I came up with them in a moment when I wrote a line of, but you can't change fate. Only the Storytellers have that power. And I don't think I had even like thought of the Storytellers really until then. I think I might have had it as like a vague concept, like what if there were, but it was really then that I was like, oh, okay, this is where my story is going. And it took a lot longer to figure out how many Storytellers there are and what their roles were. And
where they came
from and how they got there.
So do you want to touch briefly on where they came from? I think it adds a lot to the story.
So Storytellers, there were originally 7 that were existing before Wonderland, and those original 7 made Wonderland. But then slowly, each of them raised up main characters from the world to replace them and their story. So now the entire group of Storytellers were once living creatures of Wonderland.
And for that inspiration
of
their actual stories,
many fairy tales, many fairy tales and folk tales.
Right.
And it was so interesting because each of them follows a very different path, and it's hard to find fairy tales that follow very different paths. Like for the first 4, I was like, boom, got that one. Okay, where are we going from here? Because it's hard to find a fairy tale that's just a comedy, or it's hard to find a fairy tale that's, because most of them are tragedies or romances, and or both. Most of them are both, and it's very hard to find ones that fall into more angled categories. I feel like more in between categories. So it was really interesting shifting stories for that.
I just love how you've taken these fairy tales. So beyond the Hearts and Stones book and its sequel, there will be the Storytellers collection, which is the collection of stories told from
the perspective of the storytellers.
Yes.
How they, it's actually interesting because it's not how they would want to recount the story. It's how the story actually happened.
Ah, yes. So I don't know how you're going to do the perspective there.
It's all in first.
Okay. So my favorite one draws a lot on the fairy tale that we know and love, but it also plays with these other elements
from the world that I've created separately.
And that interacts with your main antagonist, which I thought was not tragedy.
No, I agree.
Antagonist.
I agree that he is the main antagonist of the story. I do think that other character is the main antagonist of the story. I think he's the more subtle antagonist at first.
Oh.
I'd say that tragedy is the more initially antagonistic.
Okay. That makes sense. Anyway, it's fantastic. I'm excited about the Storytellers collection.
Yeah.
I'm
very excited about that too. So one thing I will quickly, unless we're going to touch on this in world. I was going to touch on illustration style, because I feel like this
Yes.
does play into
Of your characters. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
characters for me, as a visual designer as well as a written designer, it's so fascinating to play with not just how a character looks, but how a character is drawn and different styles. So this Storyteller collection will be illustrated, and each story will be illustrated in a different art style, reflective of that character's time period, reflective of that character's opinion on their self, and reflective of the world that they lived in at that point in time.
So I feel like you have these written words that explain the characters, and then you have these pictures that you're creating at the same time of the characters. So you're telling a story with words. So we could create our own images, but you also, like, as you're writing, you're also drawing. You're constantly drawing. You're never not drawing the characters as well as writing about them.
Yeah.
So what's the interaction there, and how does each one of those things help you?
So yeah, that's really
progress?
interesting. For me, I have a very strong visual image of all of my characters in my head. So it's fascinating when someone creates a different image in their head than me. That was always so interesting when I would read it to people and they'd come up with a vast different conclusion than me. And it's interesting because it has helped me a lot in hearing how other people, bouncing back and forth with how I imagine it and how I draw it versus how other people see it in their own minds. And I think it really plays into the fact that I'm planning on making it a movie. The visual and the story are so interconnected for me. Often when I'm writing a scene, I'm imagining how the movie will play out as well, because there's such a level of intensity in my visual understanding that I don't often get in my written or listening understanding.
Right. I also think it's really interesting for you as an artist, as an author, as a designer, that you developed those skills simultaneously.
I did.
It's not as if you were really writing and then you started doing the artwork, or that you were already doing lots of really great artwork and then you started writing. Those two skills developed simultaneously for you, which I think is just so fascinating to me, and how you cannot really pull them apart.
I can't really. It's like, for me, in a lot of ways, it's similar to a graphic novel in that I can't imagine not having a visual image and not being the artist of the visual image. I think that's the really big thing for me, is designing it how I saw it in my head. And of course that has changed over the years that I've been working on this project, but it's always stayed true to my own styling and my own vision for things. And I think that's the most fascinating part.
And did you always know it was going to be an animated film?
No, I thought it was going to be a live action film when I first started
interesting.
designing.
But you always knew.
I always knew it was going to be
also
a movie.
in that. Yeah.
But yeah, it was actually after I went to see an amazing concert of a amazing musician that my dad, when
Also
we were
lots
driving,
of very inspiring.
Also very inspiring. We were driving home and my dad was like, you can animate it. You can animate the film. Because we were listening to music I hope to be in my movie. And I could see it. And as soon as Dad said that, it just switched to animation.
Oh, interesting.
And it was so cool. And the fascinating thing for me is, a really important thing in my illustration style is color and what color means. And I feel like that bleeds into my writing a lot. So there are definitely defined meanings for colors.
Yes.
And I think that's fascinating because I think a lot of them are kind of unexpected. I mean, some of them are classic, like yellow for joy and happiness. But my favorite is white. Is loneliness. It's not anger or sadness or distress. It's loneliness. And how I describe it is a shade apart. And I think that's how I've always seen white. It's just this, like, think of a page. When it's completely white, it's completely blank. It's completely isolated.
Interesting.
There's just this level of...
It's a very artist, author perspective on...
Like snow. Like, it's just this complete blank canvas. Like, before you step in snow, it's just this vast, smooth, blank canvas that anything can happen on. And if nothing ever happens, it does feel very lonely.
Right.
And I think that's always been my perspective on it.
Nice. Anything else?
For character?
Yeah.
I mean, I love these characters so much, and I'm so happy that I get to keep
Yes.
working with them. It's really fascinating how the characters have developed and how I've learned about myself through the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, there's just this level of, especially with my main female character, she is excellent at a lot of things. And she loves doing a lot of things. And I think that was really, really similar to me. But in the beginning, she was much more obsessed with it. And then throughout writing it, she becomes more, I don't know, excited about being good at things. And then slowly she becomes more overwhelmed with how good she is at things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was actually the progression I was going through.
Yeah.
With my things. I started out like super overconfident, and then I got excited to be it, and then I got like a little overwhelmed with my own
Where are you
work. It's interesting because I'm both overwhelmed and excited. Because there is a pressure I've put on myself with designing all of this visually and written, that I have a vast story already laid out for me that now I need to fill in.
Yeah.
And that is overwhelming, but it's also very, very exciting because it means I'm getting to do something I've never done often. I feel like Lamb and I both fall into this problem of excellent. Once we realize we did something, we could do something, it becomes much, much less interesting.
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
the finishing it isn't the exciting part. It's the wondering if you could do it.
I think finishing it will be exciting.
No, I think so too. But I think it was really interesting with how a lot of Lamb's experiences in part 2 is she gets to the point where she can do a lot of things. And it's not exciting for her anymore. It's not helpful for her anymore because what she needed that ability for has already passed in a lot of ways.
Interesting. Well, stay tuned, guys. Those are the characters of Wonderland and, of course, MM Wonderland. And there are a couple more videos, so check those out as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.